Good evening. Today is Wednesday, September 18th, 2024, and I'd like to call to order the City Commission meeting. It is one of our regular meetings, and I'd like to say for the record before we do the roll call, Commissioner O'Donnell is excused, so we can go on with the remainder of the roll call, please.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell. Here. Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. Will you all please stand and join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to fix that after the meeting. I don't like that. Well, for the record, it is September, and there are probably more commemorations than we have time to deal with, but we have two that I would like to speak to this evening. So starting Sunday, it is Hispanic Heritage Month, and we have a proclamation regarding that particular event. So whereas in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, the City of Oregon City is pleased to celebrate Hispanic and Latino, Latina, and Latinx community throughout our city. And whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated in the United States from September 15th through October 15th, the observance was introduced in 1969 as Hispanic Heritage Week under Lyndon B. Johnson and expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period. And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates the history, traditions, and cultures of the Hispanic and Latino, Latina, and Latinx residents of Clackamette County, we admire the invaluable ways they have contributed to our city by bringing a rich diversity and growth to our community. And whereas we strive to continue and commemorate this month by recognizing and dedicating ourselves to working together to address the challenges that still face our Hispanic and Latino, Latina, Latinx population. Now, therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, do proclaim September 15th through October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month and call upon the people of Oregon City to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this observance. And our second proclamation is in honor of the 100th anniversary of Atkinson Memorial Congregational Church, and it's a Centennial proclamation. Whereas Dr. John McLaughlin founded and planted Oregon City in 1844, and whereas in 1849, the first Congregational Church and the first Congregational Society was incorporated under the laws of the Oregon Territorial Legislature of the Assembly, and whereas since its inception in 1849, the first Congregational Society of Oregon has been housed in 3 successive churches. This third church, the Atkinson Memorial Church, was begun in 1924 and dedicated on February 1st, 1925. And whereas this prominent landmark was built on the corner of John Adams and 6th Street, adjacent to the Carnegie Library and Library Park and the old fire station, Old City Hall, and whereas this church is on the National Register of Historic Places and is a local historic landmark built in the Gothic Revival style and contains 15 magnificent Povey Brothers stained glass windows, which are examples of the pastoral form utilized in churches in this area. And whereas in 1936, the church was renamed in honor of George Henry Atkinson, pioneer educator and second minister of the church, and whereas since its founding, the congregation continues its mission of emphasizing and inviting connection, inspiring spiritual growth, and igniting action for justice, and whereas from its humble origins in 1924, the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Willamette Falls continues to serve its congregation and the Oregon City community in small and big ways. Now, therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, do proclaim September 21st, 2024 as Atkinson Memorial Congregational Church Centennial Day and call upon all the citizens of Oregon City to recognize and celebrate the 100th anniversary of this iconic building. And I might add in some of the research that I got from fellow citizens and friends here, the church was originally supposed to be in a different location downtown, and they did not like that, and I don't blame them. This is a much better location at 6th and John Adams, rather than being in the downtown area, which was subject to flooding. Anything you want to add to our history? We have our history lesson tonight.
I will add one thing, actually, because people don't know this, and I hope we can talk about it on Saturday, is, as you know, when the bridge renovation was done, the Arch Bridge, there was a massive search for historic photographs of the bridge because ODOT could not figure out how to design the light fixtures for the bridge. I had worked at Atkinson Church at one point in time, and when I came, and my grandma would drive us across the bridge all the time. My grandfather worked at the mill, and I noticed the brackets, because when the light fixtures were not on the bridge, you could see the large brackets where the light fixtures used to be. Well, when I came out of Atkinson Church one day, I looked at the light fixtures on the church, and I said, I think those are the same lights.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, ODOT was taking the light fixtures off the church. They molded because the church was built 2 years after the bridge, and so the new light fixtures on the bridge are exact copies of the ones from the church. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's going to be a wonderful event on Saturday, and we have so many things in Oregon City. This is actually one of the younger things in Oregon City because, you know, our city's older than 100 years, and we have, the school district's going to be selling over 150, but we're older than that too. But we have buildings and houses that people live in that are older than 100. So we have a lot of Centennial structures in our community, which is pretty amazing and pretty awesome. So I'm just excited about the fact that we get to celebrate this, and I'm sure we'll all look forward to seeing what's in that time capsule. Hopefully things are not too deteriorated like some cases, but hopefully it's all been dry and stayed dry. And then they're going to do another time capsule to celebrate. Thank you. That's perfect. All right. So we have a number of people here that want to speak, and I am going to take them. There was a request, but I'm going to take them in a specific order. So just bear with me here. So Jackie, if you want to come on up. And since there are a number of people who want to talk on the same subject, so if you want to just say you agree with whatever you say, that would be great. So you get to lead off, and then we'll take a little pause there. Oh, that's okay. Just move the chairs out of the way. Make sure the fabulous green button is on.
Hey, good evening.
Is it on? Is the green button on?
I can see a light.
Is it
Okay,
green?
somehow we,
Green.
yeah, tap it, so just a minute. Yeah, it's not doing anything, so hang on just a second.
Oh, hang on. It's brighter now.
Yes, okay, perfect. Yeah, I didn't think it was on because we couldn't, I mean, I could hear you, but we don't know if our listening audience
It
could
looked
hear
like
you.
it was on, but it's much brighter and it's obviously
Yeah.
on. So good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here tonight to ask for your support to add a line item in the city's next budget cycle in support of retired canines health care. Why, you might ask? Well, currently, OCPD canine officers are selling toys to try and build up funds to cover the costs of the canines in retirement. Donations are also solicited for this fund, which is managed by the Clackamette County Peace Officers Benevolent Foundation. Currently, it has approximately $6,500 in it for the dog's health care. In 2023, Mac, who is now retired canine, who has chronic seizures, just this one dog had just under $3,000 in vet bills. So you can see $6,500 doesn't go that far if there's more than one dog retired. Since once 2 to 3 dogs are retired, this fund set up now will be stretched, if not depleted. Canines employed with the PD. We've got Ronnie, 4 years old, Slate, 9 years old, Grendel, 10 years old, and I think there's a new one called Coco, don't know the age, recently purchased. Retired dogs currently is just Mac. Slate, however, will be retiring this coming January. Grendel is almost 10, and he won't be far behind. Canine and their officer handlers deserve to have the peace of mind once the dogs are retired. Excuse me, I've got the wrong piece of paper. The nature of their specialized work and the toll on these dogs leaves many needing medical care for years after they retire. The vet bills can be high, as you can imagine, for the officers and their families to cover out of pocket. The dogs, we feel, there's a group of us, not just me, should be honored by the city by having their own retirement fund, just as their human officers have, for their health care. Should grown men who put their lives on the line for our community really be hawking dogs to cover the costs of their retirement? Hawking toy dogs to cover these costs. Canines are hugely beneficial to our community, as we all know. Not only are they highly visible around town at community events, they do demos, they visit schools, but they also keep us safe. Ronnie, in 13 months, was deployed 41 times and captured 21 suspects. He even found a gun under a tractor when a suspect ran. Slate was deployed 38 times in 12 months, had 17 captures, and helped Westland PD capture a suspect on the loose, which obviously they couldn't catch, for 24 hours. Grendel, deployed approximately 50 times in 12 months, has found to date 70 pounds of meth, 3.5 pounds of heroin, and 73 pounds of fentanyl, which runs to about 11 million doses. Just think of the lives saved by this one animal.
5 seconds.
A group of concerned citizens are asking your support in a line item for the next budget cycle of $15,000 to be made available to retired canine health care.
Thank you, Jackie. So, Commissioners, this is something that we have not had a large discussion about, so I would like to suggest that we put this on a work session agenda, if that is okay with all of you. Okay? So we would like to put this on a future work session agenda so we can have a discussion about it. Okay, that's great. Yes, and just, Jackie, come back up for just a second because you didn't say your name and city of residence, even though we all know it. But not the listening audience might not know.
Sorry, Jackie Helen Williams, resident of Park Place, Oregon City.
Thank you, Jackie. Claire? That's okay. Like I said, if you're here about the canine thing, just say that you agree, and we have already scheduled it for work. We're going to schedule it for a work session. We just said that.
Oh, okay. I agree, but I also have petitions that I gathered at the Oregon City Chamber and also at the Oregon City Optimist. Would you like those?
You can give them to the city recorder.
To the city recorder? Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. That's
Thank
it?
you. Yep, thank you.
Wow, that was a lot easier. I didn't even need that.
Yeah. Oh, you forgot your name and residence as well. That's okay.
Clackamette, and
Oregon.
I'm a resident of Oregon City.
Yeah, thank you. Bob LaSalle. Bob LaSalle.
Linda and I are ganging up on you.
There's no ganging up, sorry. We don't allow that here.
Come on, Linda.
No, I didn't call her.
But we had planned this as a pair, with your permission, of course. There's only one letter. All I'm going to do is introduce her.
Okay. Like I said, if you are here about that same subject, just say that you agree to it.
It's the same subject, but we put a lot into it. My name is Bob LaSalle. I live in Oregon City, and I was asked to author this letter that Linda, our chair, will be presenting to you. I authored it with the help from other members of the CIC, and I'm here just to support her.
And I'm Linda Basinger. I'm chair of the CIC. We got to hear the entire presentation of Jackie gave on the dogs, and we're very moved. The entire CIC voted unanimously to
You're
support.
still kind of not
The
there. Thank you.
CIC voted unanimously to support Jackie and the support of the dogs. So we do have a letter here. Dear Mayor and Commissioners, on August 5th, 2024, the Citizens Involvement Committee received a shocking report about the fate of the retired police canines. It seems that once they have retired, there are various dangerous duties as police officers. They seem to be forgotten by the city. The city no longer provides for veterinary care, feeding of these brave canine officers. These substantive costs, which include food, veterinary care, and many number of other costs, are borne by the handler. The nature of their work leaves many of these veterans in need of substantial and sometimes specialized care. Our hearts were touched by the presentation of the plight of these wonderful dogs. We on the CIC ask that the City Commission provide the funding necessary to obtain veterinary care, feeding for these deserving former officers. It seems as an ongoing retirement fund for their care that the least the city can do is to take care for our four-footed friends and their loyal servants. So we would like you very much to have a session about this very soon and take care of our four-legged, fuzzy-faced, tail-wagging officers. They deserve our love and care, as Jackie said, that how many lives they save for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
will give them a copy.
Paul? Hi there.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors, commissioners. I'm Paul Edgar from Oregon City and Kanema.
And just move that over just a tiny bit there.
Oh.
There you go.
Wow, Paul, there's this huge encampment with a generator that can, greater than that. A condo complex was a term that we use. Right next to the fence area of the PPE substation. And apparently it's been there before, cleaned up, but it comes back. And as a member of the Clackamas County Community Action Board, I felt like that it's time that we do a report to you that's been done by the county on needs assessment. And this is about people who are struggling and can't afford a roof over their head or food on the table and can't send kids to school properly prepared to learn. And these people are all over, and they're in Oregon City, and I don't know that everyone fully understands the impact of what this means on us, society, and future generations. And we just made that same report, modified, but for Milwaukee. We've made it to Molalla. And we should have a time set up where we could make this report to Oregon City, bringing to you local specific statistics to Oregon City about need. Because need is, we test need based upon ALICE. This is asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So these are the low income employed people who cannot live or have a roof over their head. It's a hell of a thing. But we need to have it exposed and understood. As a member also of the Oregon City Together group, we're trying to understand how we have kids going to school, getting exposed to drugs and not getting proper education. And these things ripple across everywhere. And I think it's important that the city fully come to understand what this means. Thank you.
I'm sure that if you make arrangements with the staff, we could have a presentation at a future meeting, which would be just fine.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any more citizen comments, so let's move on to the regular agenda. We have a presentation here by the Oregon City School District regarding the bond proposal, and I'm assuming that is Ms. Katie and Superintendent Spitzer. Board Chair Katie Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for having us this evening. My name is Dr. Dale Spitzer. I'm the Superintendent in Oregon City School District, and with me,
I'm Katie Wilson. I'm the Chair of the School Board. Thank you for having us.
So tonight, we will be sharing a little information about our upcoming proposed bond. And, okay, here we go. So we have a proposed bond measure for the November bond, and we want to first start off with just thanking our community for the support of the 2018 bond. At that time, we had a focus on our middle schools, and hopefully you've been over to Gardner and Tumwata to see the renovations and the new construction over at Gardner. All projects related to that bond have been completed on time and on budget. So we're very proud of that and are thankful to the community for their support of those projects. So with the 2018 bond, there were three sort of focus areas. It was about being safe and secure, and we have created secure vestibules in all of our schools, which allows for like a sub-entry into our schools so that we can screen and make sure that the visitors and people coming onto our buildings are safe for our staff and our students. We have expanded some opportunities through makerspace and hands-on learning, both at Redland and also at Gaffney. And again, like I mentioned, both Gardner Middle School, brand new, and Tumwata had some pretty big renovations in order to accommodate more students in our school district. So this proposed bond that will be on the ballot measure is part of a three-phase bond effort. So in 2003, there was the new high school was built, which now is 21 years old, but yes, still in great shape. 2018 was our middle school, and this bond is primarily focused on our middle school, on our elementary schools. So this is the third phase in our planning to help our schools be of high quality and competitive across our region. So our 6 elementary schools, some information that you should know. The average age is 62 years old, and the oldest is 76. I was sharing with a group of citizens, I think I was at the Optimist Club, and I said, if you went to school in one of our elementary schools, they look the same. So they are well taken care of and well loved, but they are a little on the older side. They have failing heating system, boiler systems. We need to improve some things like plumbing and roofing and some basic building issues. Because these buildings are a little bit older, we hope to improve them in a way that improves the safety and health of our students, as well as making them more accessible to our students who need ADA compliance, including those things on the playground and throughout our building. So how did we get here? So we started with the long-range capital planning committee. This is a group of citizens, staff members, students, who basically looked at some assessments of our schools. They went out and looked at each school, had tours, were able to get the assessments from our advisors through architecture, and they made some recommendations to myself and to our board in order to help us understand what was the status of our schools. Their overall recommendation was that the elementary schools really needed some updating and they needed some focus, and simply those schools did not meet the needs of our current needs of our students. They also talked about how an investment in our schools now would be beneficial in the long run. Also looking at things like CTE improvements in our high school. Again, it's a great building, but it was developed in 2003, so focusing on our high school as well.
So explain to the public because they won't know what CTE is.
Thank you. Yes, career and technical education. And so that includes things such as the trades, but it also includes things such as healthcare, phlebotomy, foods, the hospitality industry, those sorts of things. Did you want to say anything yet? No. Okay, good. I'm just running through because I'm so excited. Okay, next we developed a bond advisory committee, and this again, there were over 30 members that joined us here as well, and this was our citizens, some board members, some students, and also some staff, and they really looked at what were the capital needs out of the recommendations from the long-range facility planning committee, and they looked at different ways that we might proceed with a potential bond. They developed themes based on the needs that were in the recommendations and then recommended to the board to consider going out for a bond for some of these things that were in the report. So I want to stop here and show you a video because this is a video that sort of highlights some of the things in that report, and I think it would be great for you to see.
Over the last 2 decades, Oregon City voters have supported our schools through passage of 2 bond measures. These bonds provided more secure, high-quality facilities for Oregon City School District students. In 2003, we began a multi-phased approach to update our schools while making buildings safe and accessible. The 2003 bond funded a new high school for our community. The 2018 bond renovated our middle schools and provided critical security updates across the district. Although we've made significant progress in our district, our 6 elementary schools face challenges. The average age of our elementary schools is 62 years, and our 2 oldest schools are 76 years old. These buildings have systems like roofs, plumbing, and heating that are failing. All 6 elementary schools lack air conditioning in classroom spaces. In addition, Oregon City High School has fields, grounds, and career and technical education spaces in need of updates and repair. As we look to the 3rd phase, our goal is to address these health, safety, and educational inadequacies in our elementary schools and make targeted updates at Oregon City High School with a bond on the November 2024 ballot. If passed, the proposed bond would raise $163 million and leverage a $6 million grant from the state of Oregon to fund the following projects in Oregon City School District elementary schools and Oregon City High School. Safe, secure, and accessible schools. The proposed measure, if passed, would fund projects such as updated restrooms, additional security fencing, accessibility upgrades, and parking lot improvements. Repair and update aging school buildings. The proposed measure, if passed, would fund new roofs, add air conditioning, and make updates to flooring and finishes in our elementary schools. Expand student opportunities and student supports. The proposed measure, if passed, would fund the following projects at the elementary school level and Oregon City High School to expand student opportunities. The district estimates that the proposed $163 million bond would cost taxpayers an additional $1.23 per $1,000 of assessed property value. If the proposed measure passes, the district will receive a $6 million matching grant from the state to help fund bond projects. An independent citizen bond oversight committee would be established to oversee the use of the bond funds. What happens if the bond measure doesn't pass? The projects would not be completed and property taxes would not be increased. Want to see a complete list of projects and learn more? Please visit ocschoolbond.org.
Thank you. So that's just a nice video, and it's a good way for some of our community members who perhaps haven't been into our schools lately to kind of see some of the things that our long-range facility planning committee did. So there are 6 key things to know about this proposed bond. So it will be on the ballot November 2024. It's a big election year. If passed, the district will receive $6 million matching grant from the state. The state has funds that we can apply for, awesome grant, that allows for that money to come to us. We only get that money if we pass our bond.
But you still have to apply for it?
No, we've already applied, and we've already been awarded.
Okay.
If we pass our bond, then they match it. If passed, then 100% of that money will be used locally for our schools. And if passed, the proposed bond measure would fund new air conditioning systems, update classrooms, increase accessibility at all of our elementary schools. If passed, the proposed bond measure would repair and update aging and inefficient building systems in all of our 6 elementary schools, and that's a variety of filtration systems, plumbing systems, etc. If passed, the bond measure would expand student opportunities with flexible learning spaces, as well as additional career and technical education areas and field updates at Oregon City High School. The technical education areas, we're really thankful for our partnership with CCC, but some of the areas are not conducive to some of the needs of the building. There's some filtration systems, as a matter of fact, at the high school, as well as just expanding opportunities. We have students that want to take some of our CTE-related courses, and we don't have space for it. So we're excited to think about that expansion. And then our outdoor education spaces and fields and grounds updated spaces, both at the high school as well as Pioneer Stadium, including accessibility.
This picture indicative of the system, because several of the kids are wearing coats.
Yeah, we do have a hot-cold issue, for sure, yes. Mm-hmm. So if passed, what would it fund? So under safe, secure, accessible, again, new building access controls, we created those secure vestibules in each of our schools, but not all of the doors have accessibility for the badges. So that just increases safety throughout our system. Lighting upgrades, exterior, which is a safety issue, restroom upgrades. We had many students tell us that they didn't necessarily feel safe in said restrooms, which obviously is a concern. They're also not accessible for a student or a patron that might be experiencing a wheelchair or other sort of support apparatus. Increasing security fencing. There's been some initial security fencing upgrades done in some key areas, but not throughout our schools. Parking lot and traffic flow upgrades. There's a lot of issues with that are very unsafe for our families and our students. And then again, accessibility upgrades, including on playgrounds. We have some areas where students can't get out on the playgrounds to play with their peers, and we want to do better than that. Repair and update the school buildings, including new roofs in all of those buildings, the heating and air conditioning, which also includes the filtration system, flooring systems, finishes, ceiling tile, and paint. There's some images that you can kind of see there. Some of our schools were built in an era where they had open classrooms, but there were spaces between the open classrooms, and now they're full. And so it's the walls, we need to put walls in some of those classrooms, and it also, from a safety lens, we want to be able to shut down those classrooms if there was a safety concern, and if everybody's in a single pod, it does bring up an issue around safety. And then repair to on-site drainage concerns. And then expanding opportunities for our students, those classroom playgrounds, counseling, special education spaces. Also things like our lunchrooms and our library spaces. In many of our schools, we have to run, we have 6 grades in the schools, and we have to run 6 lunches. So there are some schools where students start eating lunch at 10:45 in the morning, because otherwise we can't get everybody in through the lunches. So those will be some areas that we'll be looking to expand. Expand outdoor learning areas and making sure that there's playground equipment and accessible playground equipment for all. Expanding the career and technical education programs. Each year our seniors tell us and our freshmen tell us what kind of courses they'd like to take, and just without some of the infrastructure, it's impossible to kind of allow for those opportunities for our kids. The fields and grounds, and then updates and repairs to the Pioneer Memorial Stadium, including things like handrails and accessible bathrooms, those sorts of things. So if passed, what would the proposed bond cost taxpayers? So it estimates that the $163 million bond, if passed, would cost the average homeowner in Oregon City $1.23 per thousand assessed value. This is not your market value, but it's on your tax form as an assessed value. So definitely, if you're a taxpayer and you're interested, make sure you look at those differences on your tax statement. And we get this question a lot, so we added this slide, but how do the taxes we pay in Oregon City compare to other local school districts? So this is just a bar graph, and we have handouts for you. We shared them with Jacob, your recorder, and these can all be found on our website as well for patrons that want to look more deeply into these. But this just compares kind of some of the local school districts and how much their rate is per $1,000 assessed value. So you can see us in the blue bar kind of near the end. If you look across the state, we're in probably about the lower third of all amounts per current levy rates per 1,000 assessed value. On the far left, you'll see Gladstone. It's like Gladstone, Sherwood, Forest Grove, Weston, Wilsonville, Lake Oswego, Gresham, Barlow, Riverdale, Portland, and so on. It gets down to Oregon Trail School District, Reynolds, Oregon City, Estacada, Centennial. And so, you know, we're sitting kind of on the lower end compared to our neighbors. And if we were to pass this, it would bring our total value up to 2.44, and you would see that we would move from down on the lower area, right in between Gresham, Barlow, and Riverdale, just about at the same bar as Riverdale and Portland Public. So it's just an interesting fact that we often hear questions about. Just our schools, we have handouts for every single one of these schools, and I will flip through these real quickly just to talk about the schools, but I encourage you to look more deeply at the individual sheets, and if you live in an area and you want to learn more about the school, feel free to reach out and look at these sheets. You can also reach out to the principal. We're eager to have people out in our schools on October 5th, we are kicking off our 150th year celebration, which is this year, and we will be having open houses throughout our school district and ending with an open house and birthday cake, of course, for 150th at Eastham. So we're hoping that people join us for that. But our schools, basically, Beaver Creek Elementary was built in 1948. It currently has 464 students and a capacity of 577 students. Candy Lane, built in 1969. This is our bilingual, hosts our bilingual program, Todos Unidos. We have 387 students there, and it does house a maximum of 520. Gaffney, built in 1965, 418 students with a capacity of 618. And I will say one of the things, I had a patron say, wow, it looks really beautiful, and it does. The entries are amazing, our secure vestibules are amazing, but once you pass through that secure vestibule, which has been renovated and improved in the last 5 years, you will find the 1965 building behind those doors. Holcomb, built in 1966, houses 543 with a capacity of 564. And John McLaughlin, built in 1975, currently 633 students with a capacity of 672 students. And finally, Redland, built in 1948, 495 students currently there, and it will hold 534 students. And Oregon City, built in 2003, we are just under 2,000, and I believe it holds 2,400 students.
How many did you say?
We're just under 22,000 students, and I believe it holds 2,400. So final reminders. Do you want to do final reminders?
Sure.
Yeah, then you could maybe say other things.
So we want to remind everyone that this ballot measure will be on the November ballot. I also want to take a moment to remind and encourage our voters to take a look at the arguments in favor that are included in the voters pamphlet. We were blessed to have a cross-section of amazing community members come out in support of this ballot measure. We have retirees and seniors. We have alumni from the school system. Our board wrote an advocacy argument in favor. We also have parents talking about two different parent letters talking about different aspects of support for the board, and our business community came out in support of the bond as well. So I really encourage you to take a look at those arguments in favor. It's a great opportunity to see why your neighbors are in support of the bond, and maybe start a great conversation with your neighbors and friends as well. If passed, 100% of all of the funds gathered from the bond will be used in our Oregon City schools, and we're really proud of that. And I want to remind everyone that our past bond projects were completed on time and on budget. If passed, we will receive the $6 million matching grant from the state, which is a great opportunity to leverage those resources even more to provide great opportunities for our students. And we want to encourage you to learn more by visiting www.ocschoolbond.org. And of course, reach out to the school board or staff if you have any questions. We're here to support, and we just want to take one more moment to remind you to register to vote and turn out to support our kids. This is a really great opportunity for Oregon City to come together. Our board voted unanimously to put this on the ballot, and we are excited for the opportunities that this bond measure will provide for our kids. Thank you.
Questions?
Well, thank you for the presentation. Just a few comments and observations. So, first of all, I think about, and this is a repeat of our conversation the other day, but I think about to almost 20 years ago when I was at Gaffney Lane Elementary and thinking, these are some old schools that need some help. And so 20 years later, that's even more so the case. Yes. And thinking to my mom, who went to Mount Pleasant, the only reason why the elementary school she went to has been changed is because we're sitting in what used to be the building right now, and it is now our public safety building. So all that to say that these changes have needed to occur for a long time, and I think have been heightened just with the very warm weather a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted to, and this is something we can talk about more in communications, but the mayor and myself did have the opportunity to meet with Dr. Spitzer, Chair Wilson, and Vice Chair Conchola, along with Tony and Alex, and we talked about potential opportunities if this bond were to pass. It talks about field upgrades, which are things that we're talking about, and so finding out ways that we can partner and make sure that the facilities that we're offering to our students, whether they be city or school, are the best possible facilities that we have to offer, and then also the potential, again, if this were to pass, of having maybe one of us serving on the oversight committee, just as a way of increasing that cross-pollination between our jurisdictions. I think it's happened in the past, and I think COVID has got in the way of that happening, and I think we should all be eager to have that increased participation in between our two jurisdictions to make sure that we can all have the best outcomes as possible. So thank you for the presentation. Oh, and I also want to say, I know the era when that B-roll of the high school was taken because those were my classmates. The B-roll in the video of the high school.
You're old.
Yeah, I know, right?
Wow. That's frightening. Anything?
No, it was very informative, and
Go ahead.
I appreciate it.
Just trying to wrap my head around elementary school 20 years ago. Is that what you said?
Weren't we all in elementary school 20 years ago? I mean, I think I was, so you know what the heck.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you. I just have to ask for clarification because this is a little confusing to me. So I know one is current and the other is if the levy passes. So we're just measuring bond rates, or this is, because when I looked at this, I said, oh, is this all the taxes? Is this all the taxes?
This is only applicable to the school district portion.
Okay, so that may be confusing to other people if they look at this, because I thought, okay, we're comparing other districts, so I'm thinking, okay, if this is comparing taxes region-wide, with these other schools, but this is only a very small cross-section of that, which is not the whole
Correct, yeah.
revenue pie there.
It's only,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
related
so-
to the district. Yes, thank you for the clarification.
Because I think somebody might look at this and go, oh, well, that's not bad. That's what our taxes are. That's okay. I'm not saying that it isn't, but they might not understand what the school district bond rates are because that's not generally how people are looking at these sorts of things. Okay, yeah, and again, thank you for the meeting.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Appreciate it. And look forward to our next conversation because I think that'll be great.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you
All
for
right,
having us.
let's move on to the consent agenda. We're going to move on, William, thank you. Is it about the school bond? Yeah, thank you. I think we got the big picture, and I think it's important that this video is on here because I'm hoping that people who aren't able to come to any of your meetings will be able to just click on that and see that. And I think it's very informative. Appreciate that a lot. All right, so adoption of the agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions or concerns about that, or do we have a motion?
3 items.
Okay, everybody go at once.
I'd like to pull 7B.
7B,
Yes,
okay.
me too.
Agreed.
Okay, well, I didn't have any issue with it, but, so let's move, let's have a motion to accept Resolution 24-25, accepting the right-of-way for a portion of Forsythe Road. And I appreciate the thoroughness of the report because that gave me pinpointed exactly what it is we're taking over. You know, Forsythe's a pretty long road, and it's just that small. So the rest of it we own, or is still some of it? I think some of it's still outside in the county.
Yeah, I'd have to go get exact, but I know we've taken over quite a bit of it.
Yeah, we've taken over quite a bit, but there still might be some hanging out there.
Oh, also going to approve the OLCC license?
Yeah,
There's the 3.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, and the liquor license, so.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda minus item 7B.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Let's have roll call.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, so they all pass, and then I will sign that resolution to make it all official. And see, are we getting any, just a quick question, are we getting any funds from the county like we normally do when we take over something? We ask them to either give us the money or fix it?
Correct.
Okay. Good, that's very helpful. All right, so let's go just do item 7B. Let's just go ahead and take care of it right now, since we don't have any public hearings.
No, just on the topic.
Okay, yeah, so we have 7B is a personal services agreement with the Archaeological Investigations Northwest, Inc. for cultural resource management services during the Clackamette Park boat ramp design phase. Question already?
Yeah, several questions.
He hasn't said anything yet.
Why don't we just take the questions?
Want to do the questions now?
Yeah.
Okay, go for
I
it.
didn't know if we didn't need a report, we just need,
Okay, well, let's have some questions then.
Okay, first question is, I would love to see a map. There's a description of the areas of the park that are being kind of looked at, but not a map that shows that. So I'm kind of like to see a visual of that.
Sure.
And the reason is, without going into detail about the process of the Clackamette Park master plan, most of that was dictated by where the boat ramp would possibly go. I'm not convinced we're 100% sure that it's still going where we think it's going or that it couldn't move. So I'm worried that if this study is just on the current view of where the boat ramp is, then it's maybe not broad enough.
Sure.
I guess that's what I want to say.
I guess let me just add like a piece of technical information. My one concern about providing a map is that when we are doing archaeological investigations,
Sure, it may not be.
We do not want to be broadcasting to the public because of where things might be or could be. And
I understand.
And so maybe that's something that we could review. Maybe you could individually review that because as much as I'd like to say that there are not pot hunters out there, they are.
Oh, sure.
And I know that we had to have guards posted when Northwest was doing their work underneath Clackamette Park because there might have been some archaeological artifacts. So they had security there for that very reason.
So is there a reason we're not just doing that whole side of the park?
So the area of potential effect is about 2 acres, and it's pretty broad for where this boat ramp will be. We do have a map that we can share internally if you're interested. It's a pretty broad area, though, because of exactly these issues that we've encountered in the past.
Do you think how much of the Clackamas does it entail?
It basically goes down to the ordinary high water mark, and we have the previous studies, so it looks at just the areas that kind of like where the existing boat ramp is and where those previous studies had identified the boat ramp for in the Clackamas. But it does include basically the entire shoreline, the parking lot, a large section of the grass area. It's a pretty big area of potential effect.
What does that really mean? So I'm not, because this is during the phase of design, right? So do we actually go in there and dig areas to check for things during the design process, or is that not until construction happens?
No, they go in before.
Okay, so that's
before.
Yeah.
This is even before we start designing.
So what happens if we do this and then the location of the boat ramp changes? We do it again?
This area should cover pretty much any of the options.
Be so sure.
Yeah.
Adam?
Thank you. So my questions kind of get to what Commissioner Smith got to. So first, has every avenue and option been exhausted with the Marine Board to look at the different alternatives, including the alternative of not having the boat ramp?
We've had a lot of conversations with Marine Board about the boat ramp. I would say I'm not sure about the option of not having the boat ramp. We've had several conversations about the boat ramp, particularly where Marine Board has expressed a desire for us to reopen it because it is a complaint that they receive quite frequently. So
thank you.
They are definitely interested.
Thank you. And the reason I ask is because I'm not opposed to having a boat ramp there. My problem is investing in it now, including investing in design phases when, again, it could be in a different location, but investing in it and then expecting the same problem we have right now with the basically whitewater rapids there to not come in the future. That's my concern, is that 20 years from now or however long, we're going to be in the same position, having just spent a whole bunch of money to just slightly change the angle and direction of it. So that's my concern. I understand why it's an attractive location to have a boat ramp there, and I understand why people would want it to reopen. I think it's a great location as well, but there's only so much you can do to invest in fighting against Mother Nature and what's going to happen.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
We have no idea. It could shift different position, in the next couple of years, and that we can't predict that. I don't think there's a model out there that can predict which way the river is going to go.
Right.
Which is kind of scary.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael. Just speak.
So, a question first. The hydrology study, how old is that?
The hydrology study is from 2015, so it would likely need to be updated before we finalize the location.
Okay. Yep. The reason why I bring it up, I toured the site a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
It was requested by a couple of individuals that I come down and take a look. And the troublesome gravel bar has moved substantially downriver toward the new location where we're talking about for the boat ramp.
Yep.
And, my concerns are no different than what Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Marl just said, that to put this money into it, it's $70,000, which isn't a huge amount of money, but it could end up being for nothing if it turns out that that's not the right spot.
Sure.
And I was shown another location, still on the Clackamas side, because I know for whatever reason the Marine Board is not interested in funding anything on the Willamette. But there is another option on the Clackamas side that was not suggested by a hydrologist, but was suggested by someone who has been responsible for building a lot of boat ramps over the years throughout the state, one of our PRAC members, Steve Williams, suggested a location higher up that has a lot going for it. But so, on the one hand, I hate to slow down the process, because once we determine where the boat ramp location is, I think that's kind of a separate project that we could carve off faster than we can get the funding to do all of the master plan. So I hate to slow it down, but I also don't want to, the last thing I want to do, or any of us want to do, is to be, or some future commissioners sitting up here with egg on their face because 5 years from now, we're right back in the same boat again, like we have already done to ourselves once.
Yeah. Right.
We didn't do it.
We
did.
Collective we.
Well, I'm sorry, I mean, we have no control over the river, but they thought.
Exactly, but we spent money to
they thought they
rebuild
were
a
doing
boat
the
ramp
right thing.
in a location, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, not wanting to throw a delay into the process, but on the other hand, I don't want to be doing this before we have any degree of certainty that the location is still going to work.
Yeah.
And I know, hydrology is art and science, and we're never going to get anybody to say, yes, this will work. But as old as that hydrology report is, it concerns me.
Well, I guess my comment about it is, I mean, I don't have any problem with the project and the proposal. When we talked about the Parks Master Plan, I was leaning towards, gee, do we really absolutely have to have a boat ramp there? And I'm still undecided about that. I know when we did it the first time, I was working for the city. So, been there, done that with that. And again, we don't control the river, but I really don't think that the proposed location that the Marine Board is recommending I don't think it's going to work, I guess, based on my very limited knowledge. And, Mother Nature has a way of repeating itself. And I just think, we have other options for people to get into the river, and maybe that is not the place. The place currently is not the place, and the place being proposed to be moved is not the place either. So I'm concerned. We're suggesting that this probably be delayed.
What do we risk with the delay? The Marine Board has funds set aside for this project, right?
Not necessarily set aside. They have a grant funding source that comes up every biennium that we can apply for. So really kind of the delay would just be we would go for the next grant cycle.
Next biennium, you said?
It'd be the next biennium. Yep. So currently,
what's the timing on the current?
So right now, this project would be seeking what's known as Cycle 3, so it's kind of the last funds they have available for this biennium. This work would be completed by June 30, 2025, with a target date of March 2026 for the Cycle 1 for the next biennium. That would be the construction grant. That's where we would actually have to choose a location and kind of go for the larger pot of money that's available for the building of the boat ramp.
So is there any harm in getting the information because we have to know this anyway, regardless, even if,
correct.
If we make improvements at the park in that area, we have to know this information anyway.
Whether it's a boat ramp or we do a new parking lot, whatever it is.
Just do the whole park.
Yeah.
Well, parts of the park have already been done.
Okay.
Some of it's been done on Wes's time. I mean, that we know what we know in that particular area, and they did a broad swath. I mean, again, we had a sort of a general nebulous because, again, for that same reason, we wanted to make sure that we don't run afoul of the Antiquities Act. So I don't have a problem with us doing this now if we need to know this and if we can get grant funding for it, but I'm not sure I want to expend any further money about a boat ramp until we make a decision about Is it going to be there? Is it not going to be there? Is it going to be over here? Is it going to be over there? Obviously, it's not going to be where it is now, but this is information that we do need anyway. I mean, it's not like it would be wasted information, because we're going to have to do it regardless. It would apply generally to the master plan. So I don't have any problem with that, but I'm not interested in moving forward beyond getting this information at this point.
And this is funded from the Good Neighbor funds?
I'm sorry, is this partially, yes, from the West Good Neighbor funds?
Okay.
Is that what you asked?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not a general fund item.
Correct.
Okay, yes, it's not a general fund?
Correct.
Yes. So
Can I ask Commissioner Mitchell a question?
You can ask him anything you want, as long as it's legal.
Is the area that you were shown in the park?
Honestly, I don't know where they're divided.
Okay, I
don't think there's anything confidential about it. It's at the foot of one of the bridge support. Okay. And it creates a little back channel kind of just downstream. And honestly, I don't know if that would be ODOT property or park property.
That's what I'm wondering, yeah.
I don't know where the line is.
So is there a way we can't just do that whole strip along the Clackamas? I mean, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna go on the Clackamas River, so why not do the whole damn strip? And then wherever it falls, we've already done it. That's why I'm asking about whether it's in the park, then that doesn't address
that. That is the general 2 acres.
Yeah, he said that would fall into the general 2 acres.
It would include the area that Commissioner...
A map would help, but...
Well, you can go in and look at it. You can go in and look at a map.
Okay, well, if it's covering, almost the entire side of that park, then I guess I'm okay with it. But I'm curious where that piece, where those lines are.
I think I understood what Commissioner Smith said. And so you're saying that basically it would cover from the upper park boundary to...
Down to where
down to the mouth?
So essentially from 99E.
From 99E to essentially where they had planned to locate it in the 2015 study.
So not all the way.
The whole way to the mouth of the Willamette. But it is going to cover...
I think that's a little different than what the staff report said, but that's great. With that understanding, going all the way, I can support this, because we are going to have to do it.
Right.
At some point.
Yeah.
So do we want to put any sort of caveat on it that we're going to do this and then that's more, or is this defined enough that we're doing this and that's all we're doing? This does not mean we're doing the boat ramp. It does not mean anything else. It just means we are doing the investigation because we need to know this.
Well, for me, I just want it to be clear that if we do approve this, at least for me, if I'm going to vote to approve this, it's going to be with the caveat that it doesn't mean that we are seeking a boat ramp to go there in the end, and that we're going to continue trying to figure out whether there are alternatives.
Right, that's what I was saying.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so if somebody wants to make a motion with that provision, then I think it can move forward and we can get the information, because like I said, I think we need to know the information regardless. Is there a motion? I can't make it, otherwise I would.
You should make it if that's, because I don't really understand the clarification that you wanted to add, that it's...
We're saying that we're doing this, but that does not necessarily mean that that's where we're locating a boat ramp. It's...
Or that we're going to have
a boat ramp. It's just
if we are able to get confirmation and reach some sort of agreement with the Marine Board, which I know seems like it's not going to happen, but I want that to still be a possibility.
Yeah. I think this is a self-contained proposal. It is saying we want to do an archaeological investigation in this general area, and that is what it's doing. But I think that the staff understands that we are saying that that's what this is. It's not recommending a location. It's not saying anything about a boat ramp. It's just doing an investigation so we know what's going on.
I'll make it.
What about something like the City Commission approves the archaeological contract but does not approve the location, design, or placement of a boat ramp?
Okay.
I will I will move to approve item 7B, personal services agreement with Archaeological Investigations Northwest Inc. for cultural resource management services during the Clackamette Park boat ramp design phase, and also to direct staff to continue looking at other options, including the potential of not having a boat ramp with the State Marine Board.
Second.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
I'm not excited about us reopening, not having a boat ramp. So I think for that reason, I'm going to vote no.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
It can be revisited. All right, so let's move on to, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
To general business. We don't have any public hearings tonight, so let's talk about the 2024 Community Survey. I love those community surveys. So I have yet, in the time that I've lived in Oregon City, don't know anyone that's actually been received the survey, been in a survey, or even know anybody that knows somebody that got the survey. So I'm hoping that one of these days.
I think they keep doing Oregon City, Ohio,
okay,
not Oregon.
Their first question is, do you know the mayor? And then they move on to the next.
Okay, all right, that's question number 2 in the survey. Do you live in Oregon City and do you know the commission? Okay, so I take that back. I now know somebody that was a part of the survey because I've been saying that for years.
Several years ago.
Yeah.
I'll add that to the open-ended questions we can add to the mix.
Have you ever had this survey before?
Thank you this evening, Mayor and Commissioners. It's hard to believe that it's already time for this again, but as you know, that the city conducts the survey every 2 years to obtain resident feedback on city services, gauge resident community sentiment on where resources should be focused. And then the commission uses that information to kind of set up the goal-setting process prior to the start of the next biennium. For the most part, the questions stay the same with each survey, so that way it's a apples-to-apples comparison each year as we look at the results and try to compare our progress and so forth. However, the city does have the opportunity to include a limited number of questions that can focus on an issue that may be timely. Where we went with this is earlier this year, the commission heard reports during the facilities master planning process regarding the life expectancy of the pool, and some of the commission members had expressed an interest in looking at potential methods for funding an updated facility. So with that in mind, we're proposing the question that be added for this survey. I'm going to read this here. Oregon City's municipal pool was built in 1965. Due to both its age and size, it is unable to meet the demands of our residents. Would you support additional taxes or a parks and recreation fee that would provide the necessary funds to construct a new aquatic and recreation facility to meet the demands of residents now and in the future? So we wanted to give you a chance to kind of look at that, see if you had any other thoughts or feedback or another direction that you would like us to go before we put this together and hopefully get this out in October.
Okay, so you're saying, would you support additional taxes?
Or parks and recreation fee.
And I don't understand what we mean by parks and recreation fee. Would that be?
Like a utility?
Like be on the utility bill?
Yeah. Something to that effect, yes. Or whether it be that or we're...
Or why don't we also, what about a levy or a bond? I mean, to me that we're not asking them A, B, or C, but would they be willing to support other funding sources to improve our parks and recreation, which might include blah, 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 blah.
And we could phrase the question that way so that it has, would you support any of the following, and a chance of, bond, levy, fees, et cetera. We could put all the options on there.
Or we could be more general.
Or
and
we
just
could be
say,
more
would you
general.
support paying additional money without being descriptive as to what that might be,
I'm
right?
okay with that
You could
as
go
well.
both ways.
Would you be willing to financially support,
That sounds like a donation.
yeah, well.
I mean, the key was that it was, I think we were trying to get to that it was going to be an additional cost paid, right? So that it is clear that we're asking for something above and beyond what's currently being covered by property taxes.
That needs to be clear.
Yeah.
Above and beyond, yes. Yeah,
But why wouldn't we want to know, like, if we can break it out to the individual things, wouldn't we want to know the majority of people support this option rather, I mean, are you talking about breaking it down that degree?
I mean, that is one option, and if we go that route, that would possibly then inform what direction the commission can go in trying to find those funds.
I think it would be hard to do that because we won't have any attached numbers to it. Of how much
it might cost, yeah.
So,
I think we were struggling with, like, we've done zero, right? We've made no decisions as a commission. We have no numbers to know what the ask is, right? So it felt a little bit like we were getting ahead of ourselves a little. But at the same time, this could be a good comparison if we get to the point where we are going to make an ask, right? I imagine with that'll be an education component, probably some polling, right? So we'd at least have something to compare to. But yeah, it is hard because we don't, like, somebody could be like, are you asking me for 10 cents? Or are you asking me for $100,
$100.
Right. I think that's the one downside to this is that there's not a lot of specificity.
I know this is
it's asked in the abstract a little.
I know this is a community survey and applies to residents, but I think we have a lot of people that either work here or own businesses here but are not residents, and I'm trying to figure out in my head how to say, how do we spread that cost amongst those folks as well? I mean, we already have the offset in fees for if you're in city and out city, but we have, not saying it's a tax, but if it was on a utility fee on a bill, then that means everybody is going to get one of those. It's
The utility fee tends to pick up the nonprofits.
Right. It would also pick up the businesses.
But we still get the businesses.
We can still get the businesses.
Absolutely. They pay a property, they pay the property tax.
Property tax, okay. All right, you've answered my question.
Sure. I think that to get to it, you're going to collect it through whatever the membership fee is in city versus out of city, right? That's a whole other discussion.
That's a whole, yes, let me tell you, it's a whole other discussion.
Right. Or this is too early, right? I mean, we were just trying to think of where I think we're all going to end up in 6 months when we do goal setting. And
no, we need to get some information to help us because we asked it the last time, and there was support for it, and I think we need to build on that to move forward because again, one of the questions I got at the LOC meeting today, which I will report on in my reports, is that everybody's doing these special levies. Some places have, parks districts, others don't. But they said, what is it that you're paying for now that you're doing, more with less? And I said, it's our parks. And that was across the board, except for, of course, Hillsborough, which, of course, they had any problems with their parks. But Gresham talked about all the unbuilt parks, all the maintenance that they had to do, and I just sounds like the same thing we have with the same issue.
The one thing that worries, like if we were to do a targeted survey around a number, there would probably be a background and a build-up to it, right?
Absolutely. Right.
We would say, we want to, we have the pool, we have the EOT, and we have deferred maintenance, and it's going to cost
X.
$60 million. Would you support $5? And I'm making up numbers here. This is completely made up, right? But there would be a progression of the questions to refine that range, right? So, I mean, that's the one downside of this is that it's very, very broad.
And it's one question because it's replacing the open-ended question on the last one, or?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think
99% of the questions are going to be the same.
Yeah, because again, it's consistency, and then we can compare fruit to fruit.
So definitely want to start asking more specific ones about the other end of the Oregon Trail and those, but I think this gets a good,
It's a good start.
Good.
Yeah, we get that when we start talking about those specific facilities. They probably need to be grouped together at some, because we can't really do one and the other.
But this is a good start.
Do we need a motion for that, or do you have consensus?
Mayor,
Commissioner
hang on.
Mitchell, question.
Kind of to what Commissioner Smith just said. When when we did the facilities master plan and the parks master plan, the two big obsolete facility issues was the pool and the end of the Oregon Trail Center. So could we, in my mind, I think I know what the community's priority would be, but I don't know for sure. Right. So could we also ask a very similar question, spelling out what's wrong with the end of the Oregon Trail Center, and would you support additional spending for the end of the Oregon Trail Center? That might give us a sense of where the community's priorities are and which one we should go after first. Or is that going to risk people saying, oh, nope, they want money for everything, I'm going to say no to everything?
We could kind of phrase it similar to some of the other questions and make it a two-parter. Would you support, levy fees, bond, et cetera, for additional facilities, the pool, but then maybe the next question would be, if so, which would be your priority? Aquatic/recreation center and the Oregon Trail.
That would be great to know.
We could go kind of a question A and B type thing.
I kind of don't want to separate them. I think they're both facilities that provide different needs in the community, and they both need to be upgraded. And I hate to pit one against the other.
We have to if we're going to spend money.
Well, obviously, I understand that, but I mean, I could easily say, well, our senior center needs to be updated. Where does that fit in the priority? Is it more important to, have swim lessons and this and that at the pool, or are we taking care of our seniors and other things that we need to do that? I mean, I know it's going to be down to we'll have to choose, but.
We always ask if our community supports tolling.
Yeah, let's go with that.
It'd be the first time we get a unanimous answer ever.
We would get would you support tolling on I-205?
Would you support the pool or
I-205 tolling?
We got our answer.
We could, Ms. Richter was saying, right, it could be, pool, EOT, both, either. I mean,
or rank them, or what, I don't know, whatever.
There's probably ways we could work with the pollster to come up with something similar to whatever the commission would like here.
Do we need a motion, or do you just have consensus?
It was just consensus, I thought.
You're fine with that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so I guess we're gonna work with the pollster to come up with a question that identifies additional funding. Would you be willing to pay, such as we've kind of identified additional taxes, utility fee, a bond, a levy, right? I mean, those are kind of the typical ones, and then ask the question, for the pool, for the end of the Oregon Trail, for both, something like that.
Yeah, we actually had some people.
Or none. You want
suggest doing a special district, creating a parks district just within the city, and I said,
that never rose to the list.
These were parks people.
Okay. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I know one year you had, I think when I first came on the commission, you had us do the survey anonymously, just to see where we fell out in the survey. I remember filling it out like the first year I was on the commission.
I think we had the scientific one that we used the pollster for, but then we also put it online.
Yeah.
So that it was less scientific, but we still got results online from it as well.
Okay, we got the answer to that $64,000 question. All right, we have communications. Oh, let me just, what is our timeline for the survey?
I think we're trying to get it out in October, right? So that we can have it back by January.
Yeah, traditionally it's been October with January. I think COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench a little bit, but
it threw a monkey wrench into lots of things.
Because we usually kind of incorporate it into the goal setting that we do.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard you say. I just wanted to make sure
for the new budget cycle.
For the people in TV land that they understand that.
The survey may be done. I mean, the report that comes to the commission may be after that, but the actual physical report will be done and in your hands.
And I think part of it depends on how quickly they get to the number that they need for it to be scientifically accurate.
And it's still the same number, generally the same number of people that they...
I would assume so. It shouldn't have changed with the population. It's a percentage of the population, and we exceeded it last time.
Right. Okay, people in TV land, if you get called or get the survey, please answer it. It is important. All right, so communications.
I don't have anything.
You don't have anything? Go ahead.
So yeah, just going back to what we talked about a little earlier when we had the presentation, the mayor and I were able to meet with the school board chair and vice chair, as well as the superintendent, and thank you to Tony and Alex for being there as well. And again, just reiterating that there are many areas where we can be collaborating where we haven't in the last few years at least, that I think could reduce redundancies in what we're trying to achieve, and see how we can do those better together. And then I also wanted to highlight, and thank you to Commissioner Mitchell for sending this out, and because earlier this week I got notification finally about the Joint Committee on Transportation hearing, which is going to be on September 26th at 5 p.m. at Adrian Nelson High School in Happy Valley. There's also going to be a tour and a roundtable with electeds beforehand. The mayor and I sat in on a meeting today organized by Clackamas County. It was with Clackamas County electeds and Clackamas County legislators to just brainstorm and strategize ahead of that, talk about what we want our common themes to be, and making sure we're reiterating the fact that even though we're opposed to tolling, we recognize that there's a need for money. And we also might recognize the fact that ODOT might need to have a second look at their budget and maybe have an audit or two done, which is something that's being proposed at the state level, or at least talked about at the state level, which I'm glad to hear. So encourage everyone to show up. This, as a reminder, was originally, Clackamas County was originally left off the tour date across the entire state, and I'm just hoping that we are able to have a packed crowd for them, just as we did I believe in January or February when they had their tolling hearing in Gladstone.
Yeah, let me just piggyback on that, since I can kind of look over my notes. So we had of our electeds, we had Senator Meek, Representative Walters, Representative Neron, and staff from Representative Hartman's office. So basically the gist was, how do we show up together for the meeting? None of us probably want to go on the 2.5-hour tour. They're kind of going to do out in the hinterlands more than they are in our area. We thought it would be great if they could be on I-205. But I think the issue is talking about a couple of things that came up I think were pertinent. So we want to make sure that they understand that we need to have local voices at the table in the room where the decisions are being made, and not after the fact, which is what we've had happen to us before. We want to make sure that they are accountable and responsive and listening to the feedback and making meaningful changes based on that feedback. That was a theme. And then the other thing that Representative Neron pointed out, which we all know already, but I think it needs to be reiterated, is that all of these plans are fine and dandy, but we do not have alternative modes of transportation in our county. And even though we have the highest number of alternative transportation districts, that doesn't make it. I mean, we have CAT, we have the Wilsonville one. That's not the same as having a system that gets people out of their cars and helps them transit elsewhere. And we all know how long it takes to get from point A to point B. So we're getting little incremental changes, but it really doesn't address the systemic issue of the fact that we pay TriMet payroll taxes and our service is crappy. So that was a point that was brought up. Then the other thing, lastly, would be rather than saying we want them to add the third lane, say we need them to complete the I-205 project how it was originally designed. And I think it's a matter of wording. And what had been said before was, we need the third lane. Well, we know that the plans originally called for that third lane, so that was really emphasized, that we say completion of the I-205 system as it was originally designed. And that's just different wording to make it more of an emphasis. So we'll try to be as grateful as we possibly can, but it was pointed out by Senator Meek. He said, I'm not going to go in and kowtow to them and thank them for not having tolling. He said they didn't do a blank thing about it. It was the governor. And I'm sitting there, I'm trying not to laugh, but everybody was laughing. This was right at the beginning before you came on.
I was there.
And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. So that's kind of that's the 50-cent tour of that particular meeting. Mr. Mitchell, you got your notebook open.
C4 Metro met this morning mostly on the topic of regional flexible funds allocation, and this is for the 2028 to 2030 timeframe. And as usual, the total of the dollar request is 10 or 20 times higher than what they expect the available funds to be. But we do have a couple of projects that are on the list, what they call step one projects, which are mostly transit related. In Oregon City, transit improvements are related to TriMet's new transit center downtown and moving buses along the McLaughlin and 7th corridor more effectively. But it's design work kind of stuff, not building anything other than the transit center. Excuse me. And then step two, which is smaller local projects. An Oregon City project that was on the list was design work related to the phase 3 of the McLaughlin Boulevard pedestrian access project from 10th to Tumwater Village. So that's on the list, but the number I scribbled down is they have $230 million in requests, and they expect that there might be $50 million available. So anyway, that's it.
How about you?
Nothing, no report.
Okay, I'm just going to add a couple of things. So first of all, I'm going to give a shout out, even though he's left. He was here earlier. William Gifford expressing his support for the school board bond. And he also gave me a list of things that happened in 1924. I'm just going to read a couple of them, which are interesting. So in 1924, Johnson & Johnson began mass production of Band-Aids. There you go. The first Macy's Thanksgiving Parade was held in New York City. Something near and dear to our hearts for those of us who are of a certain age, the first photo facsimile was transmitted across the Atlantic Ocean by radio from London to New York City. I remember that, how come you didn't answer my fax? Well, the fax machine was not sitting at my desk. We also have on his list here, Nellie Taylor Ross was elected the first female governor of the United States for the state of Wyoming. And Kleenex was invented in 1924. Wow. So there you go. So thank you, William, for your support for the school bond, and thank you for the list of interesting fun facts that happened in 1924, besides the fact that Atkinson Memorial Church construction was started.
So we don't have to have a Band-Aid and Kleenex proclamation month, do we?
Do you want me to create a Band-Aid and Kleenex proclamation?
No.
Okay, all right, well, I won't do that. So the other thing that I did this week was today I attended the League of Oregon Cities President's Regional meeting, and that was held at the city of Gresham, so I cruised on over there. It was actually called, and we're in Region 2. So the topic of discussion was maintaining fiscal health and stable revenue sources. So we kind of had a round table to talk about our favorite topics, Measure 5 and 50. And the title of the presentation was called Running on Empty, Cities Facing Revenue Crisis. And I'll give this to Jacob. It's a copy of the PowerPoint, and he can scan it and send it to you all. The other thing we got was I needed a reminder. So we have a fact sheet on Measures 5 and 50. That the league put out, and it's a good refresher because, I don't think about that all the time, but obviously this is critical. Most of the time was, so cities that were there were Wilsonville, Hillsborough, of course Gresham, Estacada, Tigard, and Tualatin, and then Oregon City. And we talked about the inevitable fiscal cliff that many of the cities have fallen off and are over. We are not on the fiscal cliff. We're at the back. We're behind it. But cities like Gresham are over the fiscal cliff. Their tax rate is up to the maximum limit, and they can't go any further. And they said for the first time in 5 to 6 years, they passed a police levy, so they now can fund their police fully. But it was just interesting hearing about what other jurisdictions were facing. We're all facing, as I said earlier, parks backlog. Interestingly enough, there are some cities that I've discovered do not levy any taxes whatsoever. So we can do 3%. So 3% times 0 is still 0. So these are mostly smaller cities that have maybe 2 or 3 staff. But the league is putting together a revenue toolkit for small cities, but I'm sure it'll probably be applicable to others. The other thing we talked about in there, believe it or not, we talked about the gas tax revenue, and they said, you know, that's one of the things they're going to be lobbying about. Do not support a change from the 50-30-20. There's been discussion about from our lobbyist, Jim McCauley, that the state would like to take more of that money to make up the loss in revenue for ODOT. The issue of the audit came up in this discussion as well, that people do not really know how the money is being distributed, and that was a concern because maybe there are efficiencies, as you stated, Adam, that could be garnered. So yeah. So the good news is that finally the league has decided that they are going to move forward with some additional studies, and they are going to, as part of the legislative packages, they are going to be talking about how revenues can be more equitable and how cities could get a little more piece of the pie. There's obviously the whole issue of the kicker, what's going to happen with that. It could open up lots of cans of worms. So this will be part of a topic at the league meeting in October. And, it is interesting, particularly Dr. Drosman was talking about Hermiston, so he said for the first time ever they have a business license fee. They never did that before, and he was surprised at how much revenue is being able to come in to support that program and to, keep, kind of tabs on the businesses there so they have more information. But he said, we never thought about doing that. And I said, okay. Just other little things about what people are doing. A lot of people have, like we do on the utility bill, there's an extra fee for whatever service. We have ours for the police station. So we're not alone in doing that. Other jurisdictions are doing that. But it was really interesting. So we're in much better shape than many jurisdictions, so I felt really good about that. And other than the Centennial Saturday with the church, Representative Hartman is doing a public safety forum only from 2 to 3 on Saturday as well at the Carpenters Union. You have to RSVP for it. And then, of course, near and dear to my heart, we are having Converse Day on Sunday at Soul Flags. So that will be fun for me. He's grimacing. Okay, so anyway, I get to talk a little bit about Chuck Taylor. The director of Soul Flags has asked me to do some research, and I already know a lot about Chuck Taylor, so that won't be hard. Thank yous to all staff for this week, for all your hard work. Tom and Jared, and particularly Hannah and Alex and Tony, and our illustrious, fantastic police department, which I got to brag on y'all today at the meeting at the LOC about our police department. And I said, we interview lots of people, but few are chosen. So, anyway, and welcome back, Jacob. We're happy to see you. Hope you're rested and getting sleep.
Doing good.
So, being no further business, and also thank you to you, Carrie. We know you're doing work behind the scenes and helping us with some interesting related topics. I should also add the other thing that got brought up at the LOC meeting was all the unfunded mandates by the state and how much it was costing people. They had, I can't remember, it was, Wilsonville brought that up and everybody went, amen. So that's also something that the league is going to fold into all of this about how much all this stuff costs and what we're doing. It's like, okay, we're doing this, but we're not doing this for our community. So being that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.